The penthouse trap I woke up as the billionaire antagonist of a trashy romance novel, and the opening scene was a classic. Lily Miller, the drunk and innocent protagonist, was sprawled across my king-sized bed, waiting for me to make the kind of mistake every man makes. I stared at her, plain, mediocre, and entirely unremarkable, feeling nothing but a wave of absurdity. I, Julian Sterling, head of a multi-trillion-dollar global investment empire. Why should I be hijacked by a cliché script? I let out a cold laugh and threw a termination notice directly on her face. Get out. Don't get your filth on my sheets. From this day forward, I am the only one writing the script. My head throbbed as I opened my eyes. I was in a presidential suite that defined excess, where crystal chandeliers cast an amber, suggestive glow. The air was thick with a nauseating mix of cheap perfume and stale vodka. On the bed lay a woman. She was wearing a bargain bin cocktail dress that didn't fit, her face flushed with a drunken glow, eyes shut, lips parted in a choreographed display of vulnerability. Lily Miller. A flood of memories that weren't mine surged into my mind. After the searing pain subsided, I realized exactly where I was. My name was Julian Sterling. I had transmigrated. I was now the eponymous lead of a bottom-tier, domineering CEO web novel titled The Billionaire's Contract Bride. In the book, Julian was a man worth hundreds of billions, a titan of industry who became a mindless simp for a woman who offered nothing but purity. And the woman in front of me was the one who drove the original Julian to ruin, a hotel maid making minimum wage. According to the original plot, Billy Thompson, a mid-level marketing manager looking to suck up to me, had drugged Lily and delivered her to my bed. I was supposed to be unable to control myself, sleep with her, and then, facing her tears the next morning, offer her a marriage contract. That would kick off 500 chapters of toxic melodrama. Eventually, I'd lose the company in my life fighting the man of destiny, a hidden air security guard. The thought made my stomach churn. My blood boiled, not with lust, but with pure, unadulterated rage at the stupidity of it all. You think I'm going to play along with this idiocy? In my previous life, I was a lone wolf at the top of the capital food chain. I clawed my way through a sea of corporate corpses using nothing but my wits to build an empire. My creed was simple: profit over emotion. You expect me to give up my kingdom for a woman whose only personality trait is cluelessness and act as a stepping stone for some chosen one. Keep dreaming. I looked at the unconscious Lily. The stubborn purity the author praised looked like nothing more than cheap opportunism to me. Without a word, I grabbed the silk sheets, rolled her up like a rug, bedding and all, and hoisted her over my shoulder like a bag of trash. She stirred, mumbling something incoherent. I remained expressionless as I walked to the door and swung it open. Standing in the hallway was a middle-aged man with a greasy comb-over, rubbing his hands together with a sycophantic grin. Billy Thompson. When he saw me carrying a human burrito, his grin turned lewd. Mr. Sterling. Finished already? She's a spitfire, isn't she? I handpicked her myself. Clean as a whistle. He was practically wagging his tail for a promotion. I looked at his disgusting face and felt a laugh bubbling up from pure spite. I didn't say a word. I just dropped the trash on the carpet right in front of him. Thump! The sheets unraveled, revealing the sleeping Lily. Billy's smile froze. His pupils shrunk as if he'd seen a ghost. Mr. Sterling? What? What is this? I looked down at him, my voice as cold as a morgue. Who gave you the balls to put this kind of garbage in my bed? You've tainted my room. Who's going to answer for that? The color drained from Billy's face. He hit his knees, sweat soaking through his cheap suit. Sir, I messed up. I thought you'd like her. I'm an idiot. I'm a dead man. He started slapping himself across the face, a pathetic, frantic rhythm. I didn't even care to look at him. I pulled out my phone and dialed my assistant. Audrey, draft a termination notice immediately. Bill Thompson from marketing, get him out of the building. Also, investigate tonight's arrangement. Everyone involved is fired. I don't want to see them in Sterling Global ever again. On the other end, Audrey Vance didn't ask for reasons. Her voice was professional and sharp. Understood, Mr. Sterling. I hung up, glancing one last time at the shaking manager and the heroine, who still hadn't woken up. You want to play power games with me? You're not even in the league. I stepped back into the room and slammed the door shut. As for the man of destiny, if he dared to show up, I'd be more than happy to snuff out his destiny with my own hands. The first thing I did was toss the remaining pillows into the trash. Then, I called housekeeping and demanded the room be deep cleaned and sanitized to surgical standards immediately. Only then did I step into the shower. I let the freezing water hit me, try to wash away the lingering scent of that cheap perfume. In the original book, Julian Sterling was a total moron. He had the world at his feet, but let a swarm of flies dictate his life. A middle manager, a manipulative maid, and some dragon king, lurking in the shadows waiting to play hero. It was quite the show. Too bad for them. Julian Sterling is me now, and I'm nobody's stepping stone. After my shower, I threw on a fresh robe and stood by the floor-to-ceiling window. Outside, Chicago's skyline glittered, a sea of lights crawling at my feet. This was the world I belonged to, not some cramped room tangled up with a girl. My phone buzzed. An email from Audrey. Subject, summary of action, William Thompson and related personnel. I opened it. Audrey was as efficient as ever. The email contained the termination papers and a detailed investigative report. It turned out Billy Thompson had embezzled company funds to cover gambling debts. To fix the hole in his books, he'd heard a rumor that the CEO might have an interest in the new cleaning girl, Lily Miller. He'd planned this gift to get on my good side and bury the embezzlement. And Lily? She wasn't entirely innocent. She'd been drugged, sure, but she had known about the special arrangement and had tacitly agreed. She was a girl dreaming of a Cinderella story, thinking this was her golden ticket. Pathetic and predictable. A cold smile touched my lips. If you want to use me, you'd better be prepared to be consumed. I replied to the email, packaged the evidence of Thompson's embezzlement anonymously, and sent it to the D.S. office. Also, print the evidence of Lily Miller's tacit agreement and post it on the hotel's employee bulletin board tomorrow morning. I wanted the world to know what happened to those who tried to climb my ladder through the bedroom. I didn't want a quiet resolution. I wanted a public execution. Just then, the doorbell rang. Who would it be this late? I checked the security feed. Standing in the hallway was a man in a faded security uniform. He was tall, with a sharp gaze and clenched fists, carrying an air of arrogance and fury that didn't match his station. Caleb Stone. The name jumped into my mind. The man of destiny. On the surface, he was a hotel security guard. In reality, he was the heir to a legendary hidden family, out in the world to experience life and find his destined woman. And that woman was Lily Miller. According to the plot, he should have received a tip-off that Lily was in danger. He was supposed to burst in, rescue her from the evil CEO, get into a fight with me, and leave with her, leaving me humiliated. Looking at his I'm the protagonist face on the screen, I almost laughed. Perfect timing. I was looking for some entertainment. I walked over and leisurely opened the door. Caleb froze. In his mind, he was going to kick the door down and find me mid-assault. Instead, he found me in a silk robe, perfectly calm, with no one else in sight. His hero moment had nowhere to land. Where's Lily? What did you do to her? Caleb demanded, his voice dripping with self-righteous judgment. I leaned against the doorframe, looking him up and down. Lily? Oh, you mean the cleaning girl. The rules of the jungle. I pretended to think for a moment, then snapped my fingers as if remembering. She was filthy. I threw her out. You. Caleb's eyes turned bloodshot. An aura of pure aggression radiated from him, the kind of pressure only a top-tier warrior supposedly possessed. He lunged forward, grabbing my collar, and hissed, "If you laid a finger on her, I'll make you wish you were dead." I felt the killing intent typical of these stories, but I didn't blink. My insides felt like ice, but my smile only widened. I didn't resist. I just reached up and patted the back of his hand like I was soothing a stray cat. "Careful, kid. You'll pop a vein." My voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of a man who owned the city. "First, this is my room. You've trespassed and assaulted me. I can make one phone call and ensure you spend the rest of your life in a cage. Do you believe me? Second, I don't care what your history is with that woman, but on my turf, you follow my rules. Now," I whispered, the words sharp as a blade, "let go of me and get out." The air in the hallway seemed to freeze. Caleb's pupils contracted. He had likely never been spoken to like this. In his script, he was the one who told people to get out. His grip tightened, his knuckles turning white. "You're asking for it," he growled, raising a fist as if to bury in my face. I didn't move. I didn't even flinch. "Go ahead. Hit me. The moment you do, the headline tomorrow will be billionaire CEO assaulted by hotel security. I'd love to see how your destiny handles a felony charge." The look in my eyes, pure, mocking condescension, stalled him. Looking down at the protagonist struggling in my script was intoxicating. Just as his fist began to swing, rapid footsteps echoed from the end of the hall. "Stop right there." Audrey Vance arrived, flanked by two massive, suited bodyguards. Seeing Caleb holding my collar, their faces turned grim. They moved with professional speed, pinning Caleb's arms back like iron clamps. Back off. Do you have any idea who he is? One of the guards barked. Caleb was strong, but pinned by two pros, even he couldn't break free immediately. He glared at me, his eyes practically spitting fire. I slowly adjusted my wrinkled collar, then looked up at him. See that? That's called power. I walked up to him, leaning in so only he could hear. In your world, maybe the biggest fist wins. But in my world, I write the laws. I turned away and waved a hand at Audrey. Audrey, this gentleman seems to have a misunderstanding regarding hotel security. Take him to the basement and let him cool off. And run a full background check. I don't like rats in my house. Yes, Mr. Sterling, Audrey replied. The guards began dragging Caleb toward the service elevator. Let me go, he roared. Sterling, you wait. Whatever you did to Lily, I'll pay you back 100 times over. His voice echoed down the hall. I let out a dry chuckle. Is that so? I'll be waiting. The elevator doors hissed shut. The world was quiet again. Audrey stayed behind, a flicker of concern on her face. Are you all right, sir? I'm fine, I said, smiling. Just a self-important rat. I paused. What's the status on Thompson and the girl? Audrey shifted into work mode. Thompson is in custody. Lily Miller woke up in the hallway after being removed, had a breakdown, and ran off. Ran off? I arched an eyebrow. Lucky her. For now. Should I have someone follow her? No need. She's a minor character. Once the notice goes up tomorrow, she'll be socially dead in this city anyway. However, I was far more interested in Caleb Stone. A security guard with that kind of presence was no ordinary veteran. Focus on the guard. I want everything. Birth certificate, school records, every breath he's taken for 24 years. Understood. I returned to my room, feeling better than I had since arriving. The plot was already fractured. The heroine was gone, and the hero was being treated like a common thug. Man of destiny? In the face of absolute capital and power, destiny is a punchline. I poured myself a glass of vintage scotch and stood by the window. The game was just beginning. The next morning, sunlight flooded the penthouse. I'd slept like a baby. No more dramatico interruptions. I put on a bespoke Armani suit and found Audrey waiting by my door with a tablet. The files you requested, sir. As we walked to my private elevator, I swiped through the report. Name, Caleb Stone, age, 24, background, orphan. Raised in a combat gym on the west side called the Iron Den. His mentor was a man named Silas Thorne, a mysterious old man who died 3 years ago. Resume, none. Spent 3 years drifting through cities working as a laborer, delivery driver, and bodyguard. Started at the Grand Plaza 3 months ago. Financials, $3,000 monthly salary. Less than $1,000 in his savings account. Records, once made local news for taking down 3 armed muggers single-handedly. High-level martial arts proficiency. The report was thorough, but too clean. It looked manufactured to fit the hidden dragon trope. A mysterious master? Drifting for 3 years? It was a textbook protagonist backstory. I tapped the screen. Audrey, do you believe this? Audrey adjusted her glasses. No, it's too perfect. It looks like a persona crafted for an urban legend character. Specifically Thorne. I checked my contacts. There's no official record of a Silas Thorne ever existing. He appeared and vanished into thin air. I nodded. This was why she was my best asset. So what's the real story? Audrey swiped to the next page. I used some less than legal channels. Caleb Stone is likely connected to the Stone family in New York, one of the old money dynasties. 20 years ago, the Stone heir went missing. The age matches Caleb perfectly. The New York Stones? I narrow my eyes. I knew them. In the original book, they were Caleb's ultimate trump card. When I would have him backed into a corner, they would swoop in, reveal his royal blood, and give him the infinite resources needed to crush me. Classic. The same old recipe. Keep digging, I ordered. I want to know who runs the Stone family now and how they feel about a long-lost heir returning to claim the throne. We hit the lobby. A crowd of employees was gathered around the bulletin board, whispering and pointing. I knew exactly what they were looking at. Audrey's report on the Lily Miller incident was front and center. It detailed how she had knowingly cooperated with Billy Thompson to get into my bed. There were even grainy stills from the security footage, censored, but clear enough. I saw a group of maids who had been Lily's friends yesterday. Now, their faces were twisted with scorn. I can't believe her, acting so innocent while trying to sleep her way to the top. She was always a climber. Glad she got caught. Good luck finding a job in Chicago after this. The toxic gossip was a series of daggers aimed at the girl who used to be the star of this show. The broken heroine at the edge of the crowd. I saw a familiar figure. Lily Miller. She was still wearing that cheap dress, her hair a mess, her face as white as paper. She was staring at the notice, shaking like a leaf in a storm. Her eyes were filled with a mix of humiliation, desperation, and regret. She felt my gaze and looked up. Our eyes met. Her eyes welled with tears, and her lips trembled as if she wanted to beg for mercy. I didn't give her the chance. I gave her a look of utter, chilling indifference, then walked past her, flanked by my security. She wasn't even worth a word. As I passed, I heard the sound of her finally breaking, a suppressed, jagged sob. Regret? This is just the prologue. Outside, a fleet of black Rolls-Royces was waiting. I stepped into the lead car. To the office. As the city blurred past the window, I felt a sense of calm. I neutralized the heroine and buried the manager. Now, it was time to deal with the Dragon King. I pulled out my phone and dialed number. Hey, Commissioner Miller? It's Julian Sterling. In a cramped holding cell at the 12th precinct, Caleb Stone sat cross-legged on a metal cot. His eyes were shut, his breathing steady, acting as if the bars didn't exist. He hadn't said a word since they brought him in. The cops were annoyed. On paper, he was just a security guard who trespassed and tried to assault a billionaire. Normally, that's a few days in lockup. But because the victim was Julian Sterling, they were terrified to let him go without a green light. The heavy iron door groaned open. Commissioner Miller himself walked in with a tight, forced smile. Mr. Stone, there's been a mistake. You're free to go. Caleb opened his eyes. His gaze was like a knife. He didn't move. Sterling? Miller cleared his throat. Mr. Sterling called personally. Said last night was a misunderstanding, and he liked to let bygones be bygones. He wants to make peace. Caleb let out a harsh laugh. A capitalist like Sterling making peace? Where is he? He's waiting for you at the Jade Pavilion. He set up a private meeting to apologize. An apology? Caleb stood up, his joints popping. Let's see what game you're playing, Sterling. He walked out without looking back. The Jade Pavilion was one of the most exclusive private clubs in the city. In a room smelling of expensive sandalwood and aged tea, I sat at the head of the table. Audrey stood behind me, whispering updates. Caleb is on his way. Also, Lily Miller didn't show up for her shift. She's officially resigned and gone off the grid. Expected, I said. She had no face left to show. Anything else? The New York situation is developing, Audrey said, her voice dropping. Arthur Stone, the patriarch, is in critical condition. It's a rare, undiagnosed illness. The family is in chaos, fighting over the estate. They're also frantically looking for the missing grandson, because rumors say only his blood can provide the cure. I set down my tea. Perfect. The blood of the heir plot point. It's got all the trimmings. In the book, this was when Caleb would be found, return to NYC, save his grandfather with mystic medical skills, and take over the family. Audrey, I need you to do something. Anything, sir. Contact the top 5 medical research teams in the world. I want them flown to New York immediately. They are to treat Arthur Stone on my dime. Audrey blinked, confused. Sir, Caleb is our enemy. Why are we saving his grandfather? I smiled. Audrey, do you think it's easier to control Caleb if he returns as a savior, or if he returns to find a family already healed and he's just an unwanted bastard coming to steal their inheritance? Audrey's eyes lit up. She got it. This was a total bypass of his hero arc. If I fixed the problem first, Caleb's return would be a threat to the uncles and cousins, not a blessing. He wouldn't be a hero. He'd be a target. I'll arrange it immediately. The door swung open. Caleb Stone walked in, radiating hostility. He'd changed into jeans and a t-shirt, but his aura was even more aggressive. He sat across from me without being asked. Talk. What do you want? I acted like I didn't see the hate in his eyes. I poured him a cup of tea and pushed it toward him. Mr. Stone, I apologize for last night. I was out of line. My tone was so sincere it actually stunned him. He searched my face for sarcasm and found none. You're apologizing? A guy like you actually sees other people as human. I didn't before, I said, meeting his gaze. But you're not other people. You're the long-lost heir of the New York Stone family, aren't you? The temperature in the room plummeted. Caleb's body tensed, a lethal stillness taking over. His secret, the one thing he'd been hiding for years, had been laid bare in seconds. The air felt heavy. Caleb's hand drifted toward the small of his back. How do you know that? In this city, if I want to know something, it becomes public knowledge to me, I said, taking a sip of tea. But relax. I don't care about your family tree. I want to talk business. Business? I know why you're really in Chicago, I said, leaning in. You're here for Silas Thorne. You're here for revenge. Caleb's pupils shrunk. If his identity was a shock, my knowledge of his mission was a death chill. Who is this guy? He had to be thinking. I was a god to him in that moment, knowing his every move before he made it. Your enemy is Vic, the shark Moretti, the king of the South Side, right? The deal with the devil 3 years ago, I continued. Moretti wanted the land your gym was on. He sent a crew to level it. Silas Thorne, your master, died protecting you. You've been working as a guard, waiting for an opening to kill him. Every word I spoke drained the color from Caleb's face. His killing intent vanished, replaced by a hollow shock. His entire life's purpose was being read back to him like a grocery list. "Oh, what are you?" he stammered. "The man who can help you," I said. I stood up and put a hand on his shoulder. Moretti is entrenched. He has a private army of 300 men and half the city council in his pocket. You're a great fighter, but if you go after him alone, you'll either die or spend your life on death row. Even if you win, you lose. But if I help you, I let that hang in the air. I have the money, the lawyers, and the leverage. I can clear the board. I can hand you Moretti's head on a silver platter and make sure you walk away a free man. Caleb looked up, his eyes a mess of conflicting emotions. What's the catch? Nobody gives away a gift like that. Smart, I laughed. My conditions are simple. I held up one finger. First, from now on, you work for me. Your life belongs to Sterling Global. I held up a second finger. Second, forget Lily Miller. She's a bottom feeder. Your future is the elite of New York, not a girl who tried to entrap a billionaire for a paycheck. Then the third finger. And most importantly, when you return to New York, you will become the head of the Stone family. And the Stone family will answer to me. The room went dead silent. Caleb stared at me, his ambition and his pride clashing behind his eyes. He realized he was like a flea on a chessboard. No matter how he jumped, I owned the board. And if I say no, he gritted out. My smile vanished. I sat back down and blew on my tea. Then it's simple. Vic Moretti finds out there's a survivor from the gym living in the Grand Plaza. The New York Stones find out their missing heir is a wanted felon. And you, Caleb, will have nowhere to run and nowhere to hide. I looked at his pale face. You don't have a choice. Caleb left. He didn't say yes, but he didn't say no. He walked out like a ghost. I knew he'd be back. When you're drowning and someone offers a hand, even if it's the hand of a monster, you take it. Audrey walked in with a folder. The Moretti files, sir. Vic the Sharp Moretti. He was the classic mid-boss. In the book, Caleb barely survived killing him, using some forbidden technique. But I didn't need forbidden techniques. I had capitalism. Audrey, Moretti, is bidding on that South Side redevelopment project, right? Yes, sir. He's desperate for it. He's already bribed the zoning board. Good. Tell the board Sterling Global is entering the bid. And tell the press I'm planning to turn the South Side into the new tech hub of the Midwest. Audrey frowned. Sir, the margins on that project are terrible. The demolition costs alone would kill us. I'm not trying to make money, I said. I'm trying to kill a shark. Set our bid 30% higher than the market value. Let the word out that I'm obsessed with this land. Audrey caught on. You're baiting him. Exactly. A guy like Moretti thinks he owns the South Side. He's arrogant. He won't let an outsider take his turf. He'll keep outbidding us because his ego won't let him lose face in front of his crew. And I'll walk away the moment he bankrupts himself to win. It was called a winner's curse. But that's only step one. I added, my voice turning cold. Dig up his bribery records. Find his offshore accounts. I want him to hit the bottom of his bank account, just as the FBI hits his front door. And finally, find the evidence from 3 years ago. The murder of Silas Thorne. I want him ruined, then I want him dead. Audrey bowed her head. Yes, Mr. Sterling. Over the next few days, I moved the pieces. The news of Sterling Global's interest in the South Side hit the city like a bomb. Everyone wondered why a Titan was fighting a mobster for a slum. In a dark office on the South Side, Vic Moretti was losing his mind. He kicked over a mahogany desk, shattering a $1 million vase. Sterling, that arrogant prick. Does he think he can just walk into my house and take my food? Boss, his bid is 30% over budget, his advisor whispered. Maybe we let him have it. Let him have it. Moretti roared, slapping the advisor. If I back down, every crew in the city will think I'm soft. I don't care what it costs. Bid another $100 million over him. I want that land. The winner's curse. The fish has taken the bait, sir, Audrey reported over the phone. Moretti has leveraged everything. He's taken out high-interest loans from the Russian mob and liquidated his legitimate holdings just to stay in the bidding war. Perfect. And his political protection? We have the records. 3 city council members were in his pocket. We've sent the evidence to the feds. They're just waiting for the signal. Good. I hung up and took a sip of my coffee. Everything was on schedule. Just then, my private phone rang. An unknown number. I'm in, a gravelly voice said. Caleb. Glad to hear it, I said. You want your revenge? I'll give it to you tomorrow. But first, a gift. I pressed a button on my desk, and a wall screen flickered to life. It showed a high-end private lounge, the very one Caleb had just left. On the screen was a wealthy young socialite, Mark Stevens, the heir to a tech fortune. And across from him was Lily Miller. She was dressed in designer clothes now, but she looked terrified. Who is that? Caleb's voice cracked over the phone. Mark Stevens, I said. He's fond of girls like Lily. And it seems Lily, after being rejected by a poor guard like you and humiliated by me, decided to find a faster way to the top. I turned up the volume. On the screen, Stevens was laughing. Come on, Lily. $1 million. That's more than you'd make in a lifetime of cleaning toilets. Just stay with me tonight, and it's yours. Lily hesitated, then nodded slowly. Make it $2 million. Deal. Stevens pulled her into his lap. She didn't fight. She leaned into him, her face a mask of cold calculation. There was a long silence on the phone. I could hear Caleb's heavy, ragged breathing. The image of his pure angel was shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces. Do you see it now, Caleb? I asked softly. That's the woman you were ready to die for. She's not an angel. She's a commodity. In this world, only power and money are real. Do you still want to save her? I heard a crack, the sound of Caleb breaking his own phone in his hand. Then a low, animalistic growl. I understand now. From today on, I live only for myself. And for the mission. Excellent. Tomorrow is the auction. Be ready. The City Land Bureau was packed. Every camera in Chicago was focused on two men, Julian Sterling and Vic Moretti. I looked effortless in a tailored suit. Moretti looked like a ticking time bomb in a gaudy silk shirt and gold chains, surrounded by armed goons. He walked up to me, eyes filled with malice. Sterling, you're out of your depth. The South Side belongs to me. I smiled. Business is business, Vic. May the best man win. The bidding started at $500 million. Moretti didn't hesitate. $1 billion. The room gasped. I calmly raised my paddle. $1.2 billion. $1.5. Moretti screamed. $1.7. $2 billion. Moretti was sweating now. His advisor was frantically whispering in his ear to stop, but Moretti shoved him away. When the price hit $2, $5 billion, double what the land was worth. Moretti looked insane. I looked him in the eye and raised my paddle one last time. $2.6 billion. Moretti's face went purple. He stood up and roared, $2.7 billion. And stay out of my neighborhood, you prick. The room went silent. All eyes turned to me. I looked at Moretti, smiled broadly, and set my paddle down. I gave him a mock salute. It's all yours, Mr. Moretti. I know when I'm beaten. The hammer fell. Sold. To Moretti Developments for $2.7 billion. The room erupted. Moretti cheered, soaking in the victory. But as he looked at me, his smile faded. I was laughing. A cold, predatory laugh. He had just spent his entire fortune on a hole in the ground that he could never afford to develop. And the loans he took to pay for it? The people he owed were not the kind to accept excuses. The fall of the shark, the news of the record-breaking sale, hit the wires instantly. Moretti was the king of the headlines for exactly 1 hour. Then, the second wave hit. Breaking news. Vic Moretti linked to massive corruption probe. Federal warrants issued. The banks froze his accounts. The Russian lenders, realizing their collateral was now under federal investigation, sent their collectors. By nightfall, Moretti's empire had turned into a funeral pyre. I sat in my office, watching the city. Audrey, send Caleb the address. It's done, sir. Moretti is hiding in his suburban estate. We've pulled his security. Most of them fled when the FBI started knocking on doors. Good. Let him have his moment of justice. The Moretti estate was dark. Vic sat in his living room, a bottle of bourbon in one hand and a pistol in the other. He was a cornered animal. Traitorous bastards. All of them. The front door creaked open. A shadow stepped in, wearing a tactical suit and a demon mask. The air in the room grew cold with a singular, focused hate. Moretti scrambled up. Who's there? I'll kill you. The masked figure didn't speak. Every step he took toward Moretti seemed to vibrate through the floor. Stop. I'm calling the cops. Moretti fumbled for his phone. The figure stopped 3 paces away and slowly removed the mask. Caleb Stone. Moretti's eyes widened. You're the Thorn kid? You're still alive. I'm alive, Caleb said, his voice a rasp of pure iron. And I'm the last thing you'll ever see. Huh. Moretti laughed hysterically. You think you're a hero? You're just a punk. He leveled his gun and pulled the trigger. Bang! Caleb moved like a ghost, a blur of motion that defied the eye. He didn't just dodge the bullet. He closed the gap in a heartbeat. A flash of steel followed. Arg! Moretti screamed as his hand, still clutching the gun, was severed at the wrist. Blood sprayed across the white carpet. Caleb didn't stop. He pinned Moretti to the floor with a boot to his chest, the edge of his blade resting against Moretti's throat. Wait, wait. Moretti sobbed,